Hello, it's Shelly. Um, I'm doing another movie review. Again, I'm on the webcam because, well, I'm just too lazy to get everything all set up, and I'm really wearing my night shirt right now. So sorry, you kind of get the not that much effort put in me look. So, I guess what I'm doing now is I'm gonna again, as you know, with the webcam versus the other, I'm not gonna show off any of the movies because they all look backwards. So I'll just name them, and you can look them up and check them out. The first one I'm gonna go over is actually a documentary I saw that was on Netflix Instant that I've been interested in checking out for a while now. The documentary is Room 237, and as many of you have already heard about, it's all about these people who are really, put it nicely, obsessed with the movie The Shining, and all the different theories they think that Stanley Kubrick was labeling in or winding into the movie to kind of give you hints of stuff. Well, it's interesting for a little while, but then it really feels like you're at the nut house hearing some conspiracy theories. That sounded really weird to say together. um, there are things in there I would never have even thought of. The fact that it seems almost like they dedicate their lives to find these theories, and it's kind of like when you see things and you're stretching because that's what you believe, and you find something that matches what fits it. Eventually, if you look into anything long enough, you can find something that will fill into what you believe. So it was kind of weird, I guess, not in a it's just in a really weird way. It felt almost like this person who was doing this documentary was finding these group of people just so he could, I don't know, make a movie and get his own fame off of almost bringing to light these interesting characters who feel like there is some hidden agenda that Stanley Kubrick did in this movie and that only they can see. It's almost kind of depressing in that mindset. It's almost like when you, I guess, what is it, American Idol? They'll have basically before they start the whole thing, they'll have the what I call the Regent show. They bring the worst of the worst on and film it and then show everyone that. So mostly just to embarrass people. And this kind of feels that same way. It almost makes you, at first it's kind of funny, and then more you watch, and you're like, okay, whatever. People come up with these different little crackpot theories. Okay, there's times I've seen things and thought things more, but the extent of some of their obsessions is really kind of really out there. And there was a point where I was like, okay, everyone has their own thing. But when we got to the point where some guy literally said that the reason Stanley Kubrick did The Shining is to give hints that Stanley Kubrick orchestrated the Apollo moon landing and that it didn't really exist. That I don't know what else to say at that point. It seemed like, wow, it just really felt awkward to even watch anymore. Even before that, there was another guy who said after the credits in the beginning where it says Stanley Kubrick, you could see, um, what is it? Um, airbrushed face of Stanley Kubrick in the clouds. And I'm looking and I have no idea. There's sometimes you look at things and maybe you see it if you've got that in your mindset. But this, I don't even know. And there were other things like that. So out there and out of the realm of reality. I didn't even know what to say for that. Watching the documentary, I tried. I got almost, I think I canceled out the last 10 minutes. I couldn't even watch the last 10 minutes, but I got through most of it. And honestly, it's so hard to watch it because of the fact it really feels like all you're doing is analyzing these people and listening to them just to make yourself better. And I don't like that. I'm not like all happy-go-lucky and hey, I'll be the first one to talk crap too. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not the best of that. But I also don't try and make my fame and fortune from exploiting others. So it's a little depressing in that way. And I think the worst is I don't think these people really understand that that's what this director was aiming for. That they were really like a, I don't know. Maybe the director wasn't aiming for it, or the it's not really a director, it's a documentarian or whatever you call them. But it still felt wrong and not in the right way. If you're really interested in The Shining, it's interesting to at least watch, but I probably wouldn't give it anything above a 2 or a 3 just because it left a bad taste in my mouth. But hey, if you really like seeing different people's theories and almost if you want to see a psychological experiment on things, then I don't know, try it out. Um, so that's on Netflix Instant. So if you have a Netflix subscription, just feel free to go ahead and do that. So next is we're gonna get a little happier land. I had seen this already, but I actually got copies when I went to Spooky. I met Sybil Danning, and I totally had forgotten she was in The Lair. And okay, so The Lair is not going to be for probably majority of the people who watch this. The Lair was I don't even think they've gotten a 4th season, but I think there were 2 or 3 seasons. I can't remember now, to be honest. And it was all about I mean, I'm gonna dumb it down just basic. It's gay vampires. Usually primarily male gay vampires, and it's got some plot. If you've ever seen the Hair Network, they obviously a very pro gay, lesbian, transgender network. You can get a lot of their stuff online. They also have most cable companies will have a pay-per-view channel for that where you have a subscription for just that service. So with all that said, I had gotten a copy from because Sybil Danning was selling it. I'd seen the show. Actually, I don't even think I got the Here copy. I literally had seen bootlegs. I think at the last season I only saw it strictly all bootleg. And it was nice to watch it again. So it's really now there are some really cheesy parts. You can obviously tell some of these special effects or whatever, but it's got a good core story. Basically, there's this one vampire guy, been around for a while. He has a club where I guess there's a lot of gay vampire galore, and yeah, there's always a guy to stare at. And he finds basically who he believes is the reincarnation of his master, who was killed and who he loves. And it's all about trying to get him and this and that. And there's some other backstories about another vampire in the club trying to take over who the main vampire is. And there's some other side stories and so on. But if you're into kind of a supernatural element for, with hot gay guys, I mean, this would be for you. And also, Sybil Danning this is the only time she ever portrayed or the first time she portrayed a vampire, and she's in it in the last season. And all I gotta say is that they are not, even though they're primarily gay men, there was definitely a female section, so you could have your moments too. So everyone wins on this one. This is one of those things that it's fun to watch it. You're not going to get the most intellectual things, but it's definitely enjoyable to watch, has great eye candy. And it really depends on if you feel comfortable watching. There's a lot of sex scenes. So if you're not feeling comfortable with sex scenes or primarily homosexual sex scenes, then just don't watch it. But you'd be missing out. It's something fun to watch. Like I said, it's a certain demographic of people will like this more than others. I obviously love this. I mean, I've got the DVDs of another series done by these same people called Dante's Code, which is really dumbing it down. Gay witches. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that. There's always a token straight person in each of these, so there's something to look forward to on that. I would probably give it, because I like this sort of thing, maybe a 6.5. So other people may not be so much, but hey, that's The Lair. The next item we're going to do, as you've probably known, okay, so I think I mentioned previously, Brian Singleton. I watched Werewolf Fever, which was his recent one, which I think I gave a pretty good review last time. It's a fun kind of old school popcorn movie, and that nice behind the scenes and so on. The one after that I mentioned that he was minorly featured was that documentary, Horror Business, which I felt was in horror, Horror. You guys are going to hear that every time. Which she had a minor thing, and I mentioned my main problem with that documentary is they should have really redirected the energy or the focus from kind of the two main guys they were focused on, and more maybe on even the driving guy who that's why he loved filmmaking and so on, and some other directors that just seemed more interested in than the other ones. So I found probably the only other movie. I think it's probably only other feature. I don't know. From Brian Singleton that he actually made, called Forest of the Dead. Not to be confused with Severed Forest of the Dead. So going in, I already knew there were going to be some lower quality parts to the other thing. I had a pretty good idea. Werewolf Fever was filmed more recently. Forest of the Dead is older. So if you've ever seen indie filmmakers in general, like anything, they get better the more they film. So obviously this is an earlier effort. So some of those things I mentioned in Werewolf Fever I really like the lighting, the way it looked, the sound. You can obviously tell he was learning at this point during this film because there were still some improvements that came further along. Where I think he actually made where it hit the best of it is definitely during the kill scenes, the attacks. They obviously they don't look quite realistic, but they look just enough to get you into it. And it's I think even when the actors start getting more into it is during the attacks and the kill scenes. It's like they really don't want to say get better, but they really do feel like they've built upon and got better during those scenes. The whole backstory is really I mean, I don't even know how exactly to say, but it seems, I don't know if they're zombies or zombie-esque, or I don't know. They go, I guess they have to be zombies because they die and they come back. So in theory, let's just say, don't go camping by yourselves in strange areas and don't trust anyone. Oh, the standard that you're used to. And, there are such zombie attacks. There are some interesting characters here. They do have a good-sized cast, but there are some characters like I think his name's Johnny Rebel, Johnny something like that, and it was really weird him talking himself in the third person. I'm guessing he was supposed to be the cool guy, but all I'm thinking is, why are you talking about yourself in the third person? I think there were two guys or at least one guy that was French. Being from someone from America, and again, this was filmed by a Canadian filmmaker, so all these little jokes and references about French people, it made no sense to me. I have no clue. It doesn't hit me the same way. Now, probably if you made comments about stuff in my neck of the woods, I'd probably have a little more clearer idea. So, we'll let those things slide. I'm sure they're funny to people who know about that sort of thing. There are some items that are just more funny than they should be, but for the wrong reasons, but they're still funny. They had the best lines. There's one character, it's really just a guy with a fro, and I mean, just the crap coming out of his mouth was just too funny that you couldn't not laugh at some of it. And there were just some funny other things like that were just too funny, and you should go with the flow and enjoy it. This isn't a serious movie by any stretch. Maybe there's parts that are good, but some of the humor and some of the just kind of, the fact that you have to look at it in a different view set. I always say that with certain movies, especially lower budgets or earlier first attempts by filmmakers that are independent filmmakers, you have to kind of look past what you think, kind of get where they were going for. And it was interesting to watch. Other than that, I still need to watch some of the features. I think I watched the, making of featurette. Out of the Dark. It's not, he obviously did better on his making up for Werewolf Fever. This seemed more like, hey, someone had an extra camera and we're filming stuff and I'm doing outtakes almost like that. And it wasn't bad or anything, just, it felt better in Werewolf Fever. So, it's a little different. Like I said, I still have to watch a few of the other ones. But for whatever reason, I didn't watch them all. There's also a short film on here as well, which I didn't watch. I don't know why I didn't, but it's got the most epic title ever. Return of the Dastardly Zombie Vampire Mummy from Planet X. So for award for the longest name of a short film, probably would go for that. I would probably give this one 5.5, 6. It really, I mean, honestly, most first attempts or early attempts where certain things come out, you kind of expect certain things. So, you know, I'm a little more generous on those. So 5.5, 6. I ordered it online, but if you find it, it's not Severed First of the Dead. I mean, that one you'll know, and that one really sucks, and it has a budget. So, see, money doesn't help everything. Finally, we're doing another documentary. This one that I love so much. It is Streaming in High Heels: The Rise and Fall of the Scream Queen Era. Um, I saw this actually. I was up at Cinema Wasteland earlier this year in April. And I'm still trying to convince my husband for us to go again in April. I love Cinema Wasteland. It seems weird, but going to cons in Florida and, South Florida and, Florida area and Atlanta, you get certain vibes. But this is definitely a small con, but it's got a good feel. And maybe because there's different mindset from people in Florida versus Ohio, it may be it. But just even the way the creature feature hosts are still really big up there in the Midwest, and here, I mean, it takes everything just to see a couple of them. Even though we had a great one back in the day, it's really not as big as I would like it to be. So Wasteland also gets to a certain driving cult sort of group. So you'll see different things there that you usually don't see at other cons. And just very laid back and nice to talk to some people. So when I went there, I went to see some of the movie blocks. Sometimes I will see movies at conventions, sometimes not. I really have, it depends on the focus or the energy I feel at that time, because there's so many other things at conventions to do. But for Wasteland, they have a big focus on their movies. So this was one they were showing, and it was about really Brink Stevens, Michelle Bauer, and Linnea Quigley, the classic horror host, or not horror hosts, I'm sorry, scream queens of their day. And it was just a really interesting documentary. It showed kind of how they came up to be where they were at their height, and then what they're doing now. And I know whoever made this film, I'm trying to see who made it. Where is your name? Oh, wow. I am never going to find, but it's got Jason Paul Cullum. Oh my god. Okay, I don't know. I'm sure there's an actual person. I see the producer, Jason Paul Cullum. I bet you it's him. His name's all over this thing. Okay, anyway, so I'm not going to keep reading off the credits. That's rude and not at all prepared. That's why I'm not getting paid for this. And it's really, first thing it had me in the first minute, because they show about the creature feature host and different things and stuff for a few minutes, and I saw a local legend of ours, which was Dr. Paul Bear. It was only like a second, but I appreciate it for all it's worth. But other than that, it actually was nice. You got to see where these women started, how they got into what they did. I mean, you sent how the Scream Queen phase was so big in its day, and how there's this great memory and nostalgia associated with it, and that these women are still able to do some films and have fun with it even all these days later, all these years later, and they've got a whole, people worship them. I mean, I don't even know how to explain it. If you've never gone to a con and seen any of these women, usually it's men, I'm not gonna lie. There's a generation of men that love these women. Hey, hot women who are in horror movies that take off their top and they just act and have fun. Take off the top isn't the most important, but come on, let's be honest. It was an important fact. And I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's a fun movie. It's a great documentary. It really gets you interested. Whereas Room 237 it felt very long. It felt really sad to watch at points. This was just a quick watch. It just felt quicker than it was. I mean, and that's what, to me, a good documentary gets you so into it that you don't notice the time. You're focused on that and wanting to learn more about these people. So, with that said, I give it about a 7.5. Maybe even 8. Just depends on the mood I am at the time. So that's all for right now. I think the next time, since I went all on, it talked about the about documentary about the Scream Queen. Maybe next time will be a Scream Queen episode with like Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers and Linnea Quigley's horror workout and maybe some. I don't know. I'll just have to look through a couple other things I have in the vault, and we'll do it, and I'll actually have David bring out that little camcorder so that we can see it both ways. Well, until next time, or until you're really bored and have nothing better to do than listen to my big mouth, thank you very much for watching, and have a good night. Thank you.